The Empty Room, A Symphony of Silence, Chapter 1. The ghost of laughter. Michael traced the rim of his coffee mug, the ceramic cold against his trembling fingertips. The apartment, once vibrant with the echo of laughter and the comforting aroma of Sarah's cinnamon rolls, now stood draped in a heavy silence, a silence that screamed louder than any argument. He glanced around. All the tables and chairs, they stand empty and bare. The lyrics of the old song echoed in his mind, a haunting soundtrack to his unraveling. He'd meticulously packed away every trace of Sarah, each shared photograph, each handwritten note, each lingering scent of her lavender perfume. All our photographs are stowed away, and the letters have been burned in the fire. He'd even scrubbed the countertop where her favorite mug always sat, as if erasing the physical reminders could somehow scrub away the memories etched into his soul. Their love, once a vibrant sunrise, had faded into a perpetual twilight. It hadn't been a dramatic explosion, but a slow, insidious dimming, like a candle flickering its last before succumbing to the encroaching darkness. He remembered the precise moment the first crack appeared. It was a Tuesday, he remembered, the air thick with the promise of summer rain. Sarah had come home from work, her eyes shadowed, her smile strained. He'd asked her what was wrong, a simple question that had opened a floodgate of unspoken anxieties. She'd talked about feeling trapped, about the weight of expectations, about the gnawing fear that their carefully constructed life was built on a foundation of sand. He'd tried to reassure her, to build a fortress around their fragile happiness, but his words felt hollow, inadequate against the storm raging within her. Chapter 2. The cracks in the fortress. The following weeks were a blur of whispered arguments, tearful reconciliations, and the constant, underlying hum of unease. Michael, a man who thrived on order and routine, felt his world tilting on its axis. His anxiety, a dormant beast he'd kept caged for years, began to stir. He started experiencing heart palpitations, his breath catching in his throat like a trapped bird. Sleep became a battlefield of restless tossing and haunting dreams. If it seems to be gray, well, I like it that way. He clung to the familiar routine of his life, a desperate attempt to anchor himself in the swirling chaos. He threw himself into his work, burying his emotions beneath a mountain of spreadsheets and deadlines. But the harder he tried to suppress the pain, the louder it screamed. He began to isolate himself, withdrawing from friends and family. Their well-meaning inquiries felt like intrusions, their attempts at comfort like salt in an open wound. He felt like a cracked vase, desperately trying to hold itself together, terrified of shattering into a million irreparable pieces. Chapter 3. The unveiling. The final blow came like a sudden, violent storm. Sarah had left, leaving behind a note as fragile as a butterfly's wing, filled with apologies and explanations that did little to soothe the raw ache in his heart. "I've got nothing to show that I came very close to a love that might have worked out okay." The lyrics echoed his despair. He felt like a failure, a broken man standing amidst the ruins of his carefully constructed world. One rainy afternoon, hunched over a half-eaten sandwich, Michael felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. His heart pounded in his chest, his breath hitched, and a cold sweat slicked his palms. He stumbled to the bathroom, his reflection staring back at him, a stranger with hollow eyes and a haunted expression. He knew, in the deepest recesses of his soul, that he couldn't continue like this. He needed help. He needed to understand the darkness that had taken root within him. The diagnosis, when it finally came, was a relief and a burden. Generalized anxiety disorder. It was a label, a name for the monster that had been clawing at him from the inside. It wasn't a cure, but it was a starting point. Chapter 4. The long road home. The journey to healing was long and arduous. Therapy sessions became his lifeline, a space where he could unpack the tangled threads of his emotions, where he could finally give voice to the pain he had carried for so long. He learned about coping mechanisms, about mindfulness, about the importance of self-compassion. Slowly, painstakingly, he began to rebuild his life. He started reconnecting with friends, rediscovering old hobbies, and learning to embrace the silence that no longer felt threatening, but peaceful. He learned that healing wasn't about erasing the past, but about learning to live with it, about finding strength in vulnerability, about realizing that even in the empty room, there was still room for hope. Just don't look in my eyes, 'cause that's where I keep the tears that I can't hide. And if you just go, it'll be all right. I know I'll get through the night. He finally understood the meaning of the song, not as a lament, but as a testament to resilience. He would get through the night. He would smile even as he said goodbye to the ghost of what could have been.